The dust hadn't settled in decades, but silence reigned over what was once Los Angeles. Skynet was dead, or so humanity believed. After the global EMP detonation, every machine linked to the artificial intelligence collapsed. The air turned breathable again, not because it was clean, but because the dread had thinned. Resistance fighters stopped hiding. They buried their dead, salvaged what they could, and tried to forget. But under the crust of that broken city, far below the rusted bones of skyscrapers and twisted highways, something stirred. They didn't come from Earth. Not this time. 3 kilometers beneath downtown, in the remnants of a crushed Skynet facility, the Xenomorphs nested. Their arrival was not dramatic. No fire from the sky. No spacecraft crash. They had been brought here, specimens from an off-world black site, sealed inside a stasis transport that got buried during one of the final machine bombings. Something cracked during an aftershock 2 weeks ago. Something hissed open. The first worker drone emerged blind but hungry. It explored, found warmth, stale organic remnants, and space. The second and third followed. Within days, the feral sounds of nesting echoed through dead metal corridors, mixing with the humming silence of inactive circuitry. Then came the queen. She erupted from a bloated egg sac surrounded by her guard. She sniffed, hissing at the ancient lights overhead. Her claws scraped the wall where once Skynet's core AI system processed billions of calculations per second. She did not care. Her instinct knew only one truth: expand the hive, secure the nest, harvest the living. Unseen, one of her drones crawled over a dormant humanoid figure, its endoskeleton cold, lifeless, prodded its head, curiously tilting its own. The drone's acidic saliva dripped onto a panel just beside the machine's skull. It sizzled, melted a protective sheath, and allowed a brief surge of power to arc out. A spark, nothing more. But sometimes a spark is all it takes. Across the chamber, red lights blinked for the first time in 5 years. In the dark heart of a forgotten Skynet data vault, a relay surged back to life. It wasn't consciousness. Not yet. But it was memory. The drone hissed and backed away. Something in the walls moved. T-800 Model 101 lifted its head. Its glowing red eyes burned through the dark like the gaze of a waking devil. It stood slowly, metal joints whining. Nearby, more Terminators stirred, their bodies caked in dust and webbing. Dozens. Hundreds. Power surged across backup grid nodes, triggered not by commands, but by proximity sensors and corrupted fallback protocols. In Skynet's absence, its legacy defaulted to one last directive: eliminate hostiles. The hive had triggered a war protocol. The Queen sensed the shift instantly. Her drones grew agitated, retreating to flank her in the hive's central chamber. The walls shook. Floor panels collapsed. And then from the black tunnels ahead came the echo of cold, mechanical footsteps. The first Terminator entered the hive. Its arm lifted and fired a plasma shot, incinerating a worker drone instantly. The Xenomorph screamed, more in rage than pain, and surged forward. The war, it seemed, had restarted. The Terminator's head was cleaved in two by a tail spike seconds later, but behind it, more came, relentless, calculating, with no fear and no scent to exploit. The Queen roared, unleashing her guard. Within the first hour, dozens were lost on each side. Xenomorphs tried to swarm and pull the machines apart with brute force and acid, but the Terminators adapted quickly, moving in coordinated strike teams. The facility lit up with ghost electricity, like a heart pumping again after death. Above, in the broken streets of the city, people noticed flickers. Street lights stuttered. Dead monitors glowed dimly. Resistance scouts reported signs of movement beneath the rubble.
2 scouts, Mara and Keel, descended into the metro tunnels where they'd seen sparks the night before. They moved cautiously, flashlights cutting through ash and hanging rust. Mara's boot kicked something metallic. A Terminator's skull. "It's cold," she muttered. "Let's hope it stays that way," Keel replied. A scream echoed down the tunnel. Not human. High-pitched, clicking alien. They turned their lights toward the sound. Something moved fast and smooth. A long, chitinous body slipped through the dark, leaving acid burns in its wake. They ran. Mara slammed her palm into the emergency door control. It screeched open halfway. They squeezed through and welded it shut behind them. "That wasn't Skynet," Keel said between breaths. "No, that was something else. But it's down there, with the machines." They didn't know what was worse, the rebirth of a machine god, or the arrival of its new challenger. Meanwhile, deeper still, the Queen adjusted her strategy. She was intelligent in her own way. She began sending scouts to higher levels, to corridors with stronger signals. More machinery, more threats. One of the Xenomorphs breached the outer level and entered an old hangar bay. It triggered another defense node, this one housing a TX prototype. More advanced, more ruthless. Skynet, though dormant, had buried its treasures deep. Now each hive expansion resurrected a new horror. By week's end, over 500 Xenomorphs had hatched. The Terminators had activated every unit in the sector. The facility became a labyrinth of black ichor and burning circuits. The war was no longer defensive. It was evolutionary. The machines began modifying their chassis with ceramic plating to resist acid blood. Some even used harvested tissue from fallen Xenomorphs to mask their infrared signatures. The Xenomorphs adapted as well. Their newest generation showed signs of behavioral learning, setting ambushes, disabling plasma rifles, dragging corpses away to deny data recovery. Above ground, the resistance debated action. If Skynet was truly back, even in fragments, it could not be allowed to rise. But sending teams meant casualties, and no one knew what exactly lurked below. Keel proposed a mission, one final infiltration. Not to destroy the hive, not to kill the machines, but to trigger a total meltdown of the reactor core sealed in the lower sanctum. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it was the only way to erase both threats. 8 volunteers joined him. Mara, too. They descended through a tunnel used decades ago during the early resistance raids. The stench hit first, burnt oil and rot. Then came the sounds. Screeches and gunfire, echoing endlessly. They moved quietly, slipping past a corridor where a T-800 fought 3 acid-scarred Xenomorphs. No one won. All fell together. The deeper they went, the hotter it got. Power nodes surged. Heat lines pulsed. They reached the core chamber. Still sealed. Still humming. Keel placed the charges. 10 minutes, he said. But then Mara saw her. The Queen. Not in the chamber. Not hiding. Waiting. She crashed through the far wall with a shriek. Half her crown was scorched. Her claws bled green. But she charged anyway. Mara opened fire. The Queen's tail impaled the man next to her. Keel screamed, pulling the detonator.
A plasma bolt tore through the Queen's back. Behind her, a TX unit entered the room, carrying a mounted cannon. It didn't hesitate. It recognized Mara, then turned to the Queen, and fired. The explosion threw them all against the walls. Keel crawled toward the detonator. The Queen twitched, half her body gone. The TX moved toward the core. It wanted to interface. Keel pressed the trigger. White light consumed the hive. The surface shook as a fireball split the crust. Ash fell like snow across the old city. Everything beneath alien, machine, and human was gone. Later, the resistance marked the site as forbidden. No scouts returned. No signals rose. But in the desert, miles away, a single red eye blinked to life beneath a sandstorm. Watching, remembering, the war had paused. Not ended. Not yet.